This video is going to be very much based on my story that I wrote down in my book, except that this project is going to be tailored to the Brompton G line. As I mentioned before, the new G line, which is not yet available in the US, is going to be quite expensive, bulkier and heavier than the standard Brompton. In fact, much more bulky and much heavier than the Birdie off-road, which you can buy out of the box for well under $3,000. I mean well under $2,200, $2,400, $2,500 depending upon where you buy it. But what if you want a Brompton? Why would you want a Brompton? Because you can roll it like this. There's a kind of neatness and stability after it has been folded. But what if you want something much better than this G line? You want the actual original Brompton frame and proportions, with the beauty of it, with the compactness of it, so it's never going to become this big bulky thing that you can barely lift. And maybe you can build something that's even lighter. And I'm going to show you how in this video. Let's start with the frame. This is the cheapest frame, and since we only really need the frame, we might as well go for the cheapest one. If you want to pay a bit more, like $1,500, $1,600, you'll have a choice of frame colors. Instead of paying that amount of money, and I mean, if I really wanted a different color, then I would just disassemble it and have it professionally painted or even metal plated, depending upon what I want. I actually don't think that a white and black color is so bad. I think it's a pretty decent color. I would take off the logo. I don't like it. By using this frame, we are going to keep the standard proportions. It's going to be this very nice, classic, very compact size. And what we want is just to reduce the rim size from 16.25, from 349 millimeter into a proper 305, which is the standard 16-inch. But because we are putting bigger tires onto it, it's going to kind of even out. So the aesthetic is not going to change much, except that you're going to have more of a tire size. It's going to look like this. And I'll show you at the end what the result of our project is going to be. The G line is not going to cost you less than $3,000 in the US when it comes out next year. In fact, I suspect it's going to be probably more. Even the very basic models are probably going to be around $3,200. But okay, let's start with the 1150 for the frame. So I'm going to put down 1150 for the frame. And then I'm going to the Kinetics website. Kinetics is in Scotland. If you're not in Europe, you'll have to pay some money for shipping. But as far as getting a new rear triangle with a hub gear, with a rim that's already built with the spokes and everything, that's going to be, since the G line is an 8-speed, I'm going to go with an 8-speed. For a basic model, I'm going to go without the integrated rack, which I think is a nice thing to have, but you know, for an extra $150 you can have it. This is going to be around 900 US. Triangle with all fine, and that's going to be what, 900 US. The thing is, if you're gonna compete with the G line, you also want to have the disc brake. So you want to get a disc brake set, and you want to get it for the rear. So here is a rear Magura set, $200. Brakes, okay, brake rear, $200. It's really not a lot of money for a hydraulic setup, but you also need the front. And the way Kinetics sells the front is they once again give you the fork, they give you a wheel. That's very important because you'll need a new rim. This is going to be a 305 rim, already built up with the hub, which is really nice, and you get a disc setup. Say I'm going to pick this one. In US this is going to be what, 550? I think it's 550. So brake front 550, because the rear is just the brake and you buy the triangle separately, whereas for the front it has to include the fork, which is why it's so much money. So how much money have we spent? We already have everything, and I think the best tire to go with would be something like the Schwalbe Big Apple. It's great for commuting. It's probably the best commuting tire out there. I'll show you what it looks like at the end when we look at the fully built bike. And it's also good for many lighter off-road applications. If you want a heavy off-roader bike, that's going to probably cost a bit more. But I'm going to put down 100 for rear, 100 for the front tire. So 200. That should cover us with, we have the frame. We have triangle, rear triangle with the Alpine for 900. Brakes front and rear. We have new tires. By the way, the Kinetics stuff comes with cables. They even give you a chain included. So most of it is included. But whatever is not included, say you need an extra $200 for some cables, switches, whatnot, you can sell the original wheels and tires, which should be brand new, in brand new condition. You can sell the brakes, the hub gear, the derailleur. So you might be able to get a couple hundred for that. So I don't think we need to even calculate that in. So the total for this is going to be, okay, this is frame and the rear triangle. That's going to be $2,050, $2,250, $2,800, $3,000. So for $3,000, which is probably less than what Brompton is going to charge you for what they are selling, you are going to get a much better setup with a much more aesthetic look. Lighter, probably a good deal lighter as well, and having all the advantages of the G line. You have hydraulic disc brakes, and you have much wider 2-inch wide tires. You have great stability. As I explained in the previous video, the Honda Goldwing runs on 16-inch rims in the rear. They are standard size 305 or close to that rear rims, and that bike can cruise on the highway at 100 miles an hour. Granted, the tires are even bigger, even wider, but you're not going to be cruising on the highway at 100 miles an hour. You might want to take it downhill at 30 or maybe as much as 40. The stability is going to be there because of the tires, because you can fit those kind of tires onto a standard 16-inch rim. There are actually plenty of tires that you can fit onto it, so you are no longer restricted. I wanted to look at what if you did not do kinetics. What if you wanted for something really, really light? And I have praised the Vostok setup in the past. This is not one of the cheaper, flimsier Asian titanium setup. This is made by a Russian expert, very, very nicely made. I don't think he's producing them anymore, but these brand new sets are still available from a number of dealers. I'm looking at the AliExpress site, and I'm going to give you a link to everything I mentioned in the video. This is a gorgeous set, especially the front triangle, which is a space frame titanium arrangement. You have not one but two tubes running down to hold the wheel. So it's very rigid, but it's also very light. So if we go with this setup, it's still going to be the same steel frame, same price. We need to add the price of the kit, which is going to be $1,300, and these are the extremities. But because this is not an all-fine kit, you have to get everything, the wheels and the tires. I'm just gonna guess here. You can get a fully built 16-inch set, and this is the standard 305 millimeter. You can see it here. This is just on Amazon, by the way. You can get a far richer selection at some of the specialty sites, but this is good enough for it. And check this out, it can load on 1.1 to over 2 inches. So this is going to be good for anything, and it's available in all kinds of colors. Maybe I would choose the red one. I think the white black frame with the red wheels would look pretty good. So it's already built, although you're going to have to pay some money putting in the Shimano hub into the rear. So wheels, 400. As far as the tires are concerned, the tires would be the same. For disc brakes front and rear, I would say probably about 400, maybe even 500. Okay, I'm going to put 500 for the brakes. And if you want to go with the Shimano hub, once again, you can get it off of Amazon for $250. There is your Alpine, and it's $250 off of Amazon. So we have the brakes, the tires, the wheels. Some work for wheel building, so I would say to put in the Alpine, maybe an extra 150. I don't think I'm underestimating too much. And so I think we have everything. I think this is everything. So for frame and extremities, we are at $24.50, $39.50. This is more expensive, $4,000. Yeah, but we have an extra elegant wheel set, and we have titanium, which is, first of all, it's a really beautiful design, more beautiful than the kinetics, and it's going to save you some weight. So the weight might go down in this case from the starting point. You might be able to go down to 23 pounds, maybe 24 pounds with the heavier tires, which is going to be a lot lighter than what you would be getting from the G-Line, which is 30 pounds. It's a heavy bike. Now, I just wanted to include a guesswork with the roll-off. Roll-off, as opposed to the $250 for the Shimano, the roll-off hub is going to be, I would say, $1,300 more. You can get it for a little bit cheaper if it's silver. Like there are some silver versions for $1,300. But this is a really good looking piece, so I'm going to include it as an extra $1,300 for roll-off. The roll-off speed hub, yep, it's more expensive. Now if you want a roll-off from Kinetics, Kinetics does have a roll-off rear deal. Here is the roll-off triangle from Kinetics. I would say about $2,200 US for the Kinetics. If you wanted to build it with a roll-off, which is going to change the price, the Vostok is something you have to put together yourself. There is a lot more work with it, more wheel building, whereas the Kinetics kit, which is made of steel, by the way, is going to be shipped to you fully ready with even the chain, the cable, everything else. But in either case, what you are getting compared to the G-Line, I mean, without the roll-off, just looking at what you can build for an Alpine or a half titanium frame with an Alpine is still a killer deal. You can build an all steel bike that is small, that is just as good looking, just as compact as the original, for not any more money than you would be spending on the G-Line out of the box. And if you want upgrades, you want roll-off, you can't even get a roll-off from Brompton. And half titanium, once again, you cannot as yet get it. Maybe at some point they will sell it, not now. Now let's look at some of the projects people have built. I think this is a really good example of it. This is a Kinetics piece. It includes the rear rack, which can add an extra $200. Some people like it, some people don't. I think the bike rolls better with the rear rack, to be honest, than without it. They use the original mudguards pushed up, which kind of looks okay, but it isn't as good as custom mudguards, which would be my choice. And what you see here is the Schwalbe Big Apple tire, my favorite for urban commuting. I used it on my Birdie for a decade. I never had a single flat, and the rolling resistance is remarkably low. It has great traction in the rain and in the wet, And because of these grooves, you can do little off-roading, like sandy roads. You can even go to the beach. Not hardcore. So the really bumpy tires, those are for hardcore people who go for real gravel country rides and so on. And I should mention that in this project, and this is something special from Kinetics, for extra money, they can upgrade you for a belt drive as well. And I cannot tell you how much cleaner this would be for an apartment dweller, such as myself, because I have spent so much of my time scrubbing the oil stained from all over the place, especially in a rental apartment. So I might be in the market for one of these rather sooner than later. When you fold these bikes, you have the same kind of small compact fold. This is a beautiful job. I don't know if this is Kinetic or not, but they maintain the same exposed metal look, the same brazing that the original raw metal treatment from Brompton has. So it's a really, really beautiful job. I think it is Kinetics. This is the Schwalbe Big Apple tire with the roll-off setup. It is beautiful, hydraulic disc brakes, everything. Notice that the fold is going to be a little bit wider, but just like an inch or less than an inch wider, and the height is the same because the rim is smaller in diameter, which compensates for the fatter tire. I think it's still very aesthetic, even though the tires are bigger. Now, if you want to go really hardcore, you can put in the hardcore gravel tires. I don't know if you want to add mud guards for this one, because this is definitely for sports. This is not needed for an urban environment. And so whoever built this did not bother with the mud guards, which I think is fine. This is for going out into the forest for some really rough riding. And this is what it looks like folded. It still does fold into the same compact frame. This is a standard Brompton steel frame. It has not been modified, only the extremities have been, and I think it still looks beautiful. That's it for the current video. I'll see you next time.
I'll be back.